you struggle with everyday small things, like how to hang toilet paper this or next Thursday, the proper use of y'all? Then join Gary and JR as they consider these and other trivial matters. The Small Things Considered podcast from Ranch Hand Records, appearing every other Tuesday, alternating with Three Things of JR.
Hello and welcome to Season 5 of Three Things with JR. This is the first episode in Season 5. Technically, it's episode number 139 for those keeping count at home. I had a few weeks off. That was very nice. I used my time wisely. I got more sleep and didn't worry too much about this. I had a whole bunch of What Is It About You videos all edited and ready to go, so I haven't had to worry about those for a little while. And we've taken a break with the Small Things Considered podcast and Three Things with JR. So I've been kind of eager to get back into it, really. It took just enough time off to miss doing it. And so I'm back. And once again, I don't care how many people listen. I do kind of care, but I don't, because the number of listeners is not going up. This podcast is not exploding onto the scene. It's not gone viral. Nobody seems to care except for a relatively few number of people. Probably you know me personally, and maybe that's why you listen, or maybe you just found this podcast and you liked it. I don't know. But I'm back and I'm doing it, whether there's a whole bunch of listeners or just a select few of you, the most special people on the planet. Thank you for listening, and thanks for coming back for season number 5. Since my last episode, I took 2 trips to Florida. The first I did solo, me and my little red Subaru Crosstrek named Grenadine. She and I drove down to Florida to see my mom and my sister, and we just hung out. Exactly what I said I was going to do in that last episode, I did. I went down, I hung out, I stayed up way too late, I read some books, I played some disc golf, and my knee healed up, and Mom and I went and saw a Broadway-level musical theater production of a show called Crazy for You or Crazy for Her, something like that. I had never heard of it before, but it was extremely well done. It was probably the highlight of the trip, really. That and the dinner cruise with Mom and Aubrey out on the Sarasota Bay, seeing all the beautiful houses, and the sunset wasn't really there, too many clouds, but it was nice, really nice. When I was driving to Florida, my knee was still killing me. So the drive was kind of intolerable. The next day, especially, was somewhat intolerable. But then over the next few days, my knee got better. I did a little Googling, and I think I diagnosed my knee problem. And it's called jumper's knee. And it's typically something that athletes that do a lot of jumping get, like basketball players, for example. I just knew that the patellar tendon, which is the tendon that goes over your kneecap and down to the lower part of your knee, the lower leg, that seemed like it was inflamed. And that's exactly what jumper's knee is, an inflamed patellar tendon. And it really hurts. It makes walking difficult. It makes your knee unstable, mainly because of the pain. And it was not great. And the Google said that it is self-diagnosable, that there's no real good treatment for it. And it usually lasts, when it flares up like that, a week or two. And mine was almost exactly a week, a little over a week. And it took a few days of getting better and better and better, and then it was fine. And it's been fine ever since. So if that's what I get, I think I'm going to have probably jumper's knee flare-ups every now and then for the foreseeable future. I don't know how often they will happen. I don't know what caused this flare-up. As I mentioned before, I think it probably originated when I jumped across a creek playing disc golf and came down on my left leg and a lot of pressure on my knee with my fat ass and my big belly. And my knee took the brunt of that, and it hurt for a day or two after that. And the pain is the same, and it's in the exact same spot now when it happens, when it flares up, as it was that day when I jumped across the creek. So I think that's what started it, but it's been 2 years since that happened, and it just flared up one day for no good reason. I could see no explanation. I hadn't jumped in a long time, so I don't know why it flared up, but it did. And so I think that's probably just something I'll be living with forever. So that was, the second trip. The second trip to Florida was a little different. Kiki and I drove down. She drove her truck with a 5-horse trailer on it, full of 5 horses. I drove one of her clients or friends or associates' car down to Florida. We left the horses there. We drove down on a Thursday. We hung out all day Friday. I went and played some disc golf. And then on Saturday, we drove back. And this time it was just Kiki and me in the truck driving back. I did get to drive the truck coming back. We were not sure we were going to come back that day because it was the Saturday after. It was like January 8th or something like that. It was the Saturday where we were expecting a snowstorm in Charlottesville, and the idea of driving a big truck with a big trailer on it back into Charlottesville during a snowstorm was not great. But then the forecast cleared up a little bit. It was just going to be cold, warming up in the afternoon, snow going away. So we did it, and I was driving when we got back to Charlottesville and didn't experience any slippage, no black ice, no snow, no nothing. So all of our worries about driving back were nothing really happened. So, but that was a fun trip. I got to listen to a lot of audiobooks while I was driving, a little bit of music here and there. I had a really nice, when I was driving down, I was listening to an audiobook, and every now and then I would get a little groggy. And so to wake myself up while on the road, I would switch from the audiobook and listen to the Broadway cast recording of Anastasia, the musical that we did at Shannon Arts last year. And that was enough to wake me up because I knew every word to every song. And it was a rather emotional experience revisiting all of that wonderful music. And it was just great. And then a couple hours later, got groggy again. So I threw on the soundtrack or the Broadway cast album to Kinky Boots, a musical I did the year before. And same experience, man. Just brings back all those memories of being with all those people, performing those wonderful shows. And so that was my drive down. And then the drive back, it was mainly just Stephen King audiobooks. So I am kind of hooked on Stephen King books right now. The Bill Hodges series, for anybody in the know. I have just started the 3rd book in that series, and it's fantastic. So there. That was the 2 trips to Florida. I gotta. This is not. We're not into the things yet. All of this stuff is not quite big enough of a deal to be a thing. Just the stuff I'm going through my brain right now. Yesterday was a weird day. Saturday. So I'm recording this on Sunday, January 14th. So yesterday, Saturday the 13th. Slept in. It was nice, super nice. First day in a while I'd been able to sleep as late as I wanted, no alarm. I stayed up, not too late the night before, and I ended up getting like 11 hours of sleep. Felt awesome. Got up. I did a whole bunch of cleaning up around the house. Took some stuff to the dumpster. Took some stuff to storage. Took some stuff to work. Just cleaned some stuff out of the house that didn't really need to be here. Allison had left something here when she visited on Friday. So I texted her, said, "Hey, you want me to bring you this stuff you left here?" And she said, "Actually, I'm at the hospital and with a person who doesn't want to be identified on this show. So I'll just say that. And so I can't do this stuff now." I said, "Okay, no problem. Let me know if you need anything." And then my storage place ends up being literally right behind the hospital. And I saw my truck there. Allison's been borrowing my truck for the past few days while her car's in the shop. And I brought the stuff with me. So I went ahead and just put it in the truck, and it occurred to me that Allison might need my assistance. So I texted her, and she met me outside. And the way I was able to assist Allison in this endeavor She needed to stay at the hospital, but her daughter, Aaliyah, my granddaughter, and we'll call her a friend, almost the same age as Aaliyah. So 2 young girls, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that kind of thing. They needed food, and Allison needed to stay at the hospital with the person who was sick. And so my job, I've loved this job. I gladly agreed to do it as soon as Allison suggested it. I took these 2 girls, my granddaughter and her friend, out to dinner. We went to El Jarapeo, my favorite Mexican restaurant, right there in north of Charlottesville, and we had dinner. Now, the other girl, we'll call her Elizabeth. Elizabeth she's a vegan and has some health concerns. Her mom is concerned about her health, so I had to obey those rules, which brought me way back to married life. I was married to a vegan for a long time, and so every experience at a restaurant was it was always an endeavor, trying to make sure that the waiter or waitress understands that we need it to be vegan and things like that. So this brought all that back, and it was fine because you can do that at a Mexican food restaurant. We ordered beans and rice and lettuce and tomato and all the grilled veggies and a couple taco shells, and both girls made their own tacos. We had a table full of plates because everything had its own plate. Each girl had beans. Each girl had rice, lettuce and tomatoes, grilled vegetables, taco shells. Plus we had the chips and the salsa and the guacamole and my dinner. So literally you couldn't see the table when it was fully loaded with plates. And those girls were hungry. They devoured the majority of that food, and what they didn't eat, we took home with us. And it was just so fun to hang with them. They were just the nicest little girls. And I just thoroughly enjoyed that. So dinner with my granddaughter and her friend was not part of my plan for yesterday at all. But it turned out to be probably the highlight of my day. So that was awesome. And then Saturday night, last night, I went to a metal show at the Southern in Charlottesville, and had to wear earplugs and everything. It was so loud, and it was so awesome. South of Heaven was the name of the show. 3 different bands played, and it was great. So that was my Saturday. And that brings us up to speed. I think it's time to get into my things. Thing number one. I got a new car. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, in June of 2020, I bought a brand new car right before it became impossible to buy new cars. And so I lucked out on timing. I had bought a 2020 Subaru Crosstrek. She was red, and her license plate said Grenadine, and it was the car I had been wanting for years, actually. I love Subaru Crosstreks. I'd never owned a Subaru. It's been many years since I owned a brand new car, and so I was super excited. I bought it. I upgraded the audio system in it, but I drove it a lot. In 3.5 years, it racked up 82,000 miles on that car, and it never faltered, never had a problem, but I know from the Subaru Crosstrek Facebook group that I'm on that if you're going to have a problem, if the transmission's going to start doing weird things, it's well out of warranty, of course, this would be the time when it's going to start maybe having problems. And so that's in the back of my mind. Also, the fact that it's kind of smaller than I really expected it to be. I mean, it's a small car. I knew I was buying a small car, but I thought there'd be a little bit more room in it. And the rear hatch, it's just very limited in space. Not a ton of space available in the Crosstrek. So that was weighing on me. And then also, I didn't really fully research the Crosstrek. They made it with 2 different size engines, and I got the one with the smaller engine. If I had realized all that, it was kind of an impulse buy when I bought it. I would have bought the one with the bigger engine, but I didn't. So my car was slow. And when I pull up to a red light and I'm at the front of the line, I like to be the first one out of the gate, and I like to get ahead of everybody else. I don't need to go fast. Like, I'm not trying to go 100 miles an hour all the time, but I do like to get up to speed quickly. Acceleration is fun. Torque. I'm more into torque than I am into total horsepower. So this Crosstrek was disappointing in that way. It was an automatic. It did have these little flappy paddles on the steering wheel so that you could put it in like manual mode, and then you could kind of be in charge of when the gears shift, but it's not the same as driving a stick shift car at all. So it was a little less fun to drive than I wanted it to be. And it was a little smaller than I wanted it to be. And it was getting up in age. About 6 months ago, you might remember that I spoke at length on this show about the Subaru WRX 4-door sedan that was in the showroom at the Subaru dealer when I had my Crosstrek in for just some regular maintenance. And I kind of fell in love with that car. I think it looks fantastic. The 2023 Subaru WRX. And I mean, I really came very close to going to the dealership and trading my car in 6 months ago when I was really infatuated with the orange WRX they had inside the showroom. They also had a black one out in the parking lot. Oh man, I was just in love. But ultimately, I decided no, need to pay off the Crosstrek more, maybe in the future. And the future came. I now have a WRX, and for all those reasons I just talked about. Not enough room. This has more room. It's got a trunk instead of a hatchback, and there's more room in the trunk than there was in the hatch. Bigger back seat, bigger car in general, more comfortable. Definitely more comfortable. It's a manual. It's a 6-speed manual transmission, and it's turbocharged with a bigger engine. It's a lot more torque and horsepower, so it can go faster, and it can get going faster. So it is thoroughly more fun to drive than the Crosstrek was. So that box checked. More room in the car checked. Brand new, so no miles on it. Got a warranty again. Like, we're good to go. And the stereo in it is the upgraded stereo. So oddly enough, this will be the first car in a long time that I will own that I can't see myself upgrading anything on this car. I don't plan to do any modifications to this car whatsoever. I'm not going to do anything to the engine. It's great just as it is. It's more than fast enough for me. I don't need to upgrade the audio system. Here's all I'm going to do to it. It doesn't have a place to put the front license plate. I'm either going to let the front bumper remain naked because it looks great just the way it is, or I'm going to I actually ordered it already, a little toe point thing where you can kind of screw it into the front of the car and mount your license plate there rather than drilling holes in the front bumper. Don't really want to do that. So I might put a front license plate on it. Legally, I need to in Virginia, but everybody tells me that nobody cares about that. So maybe not. Still deciding. I'm probably going to put some little rain guards on the windows because I'm a smoker, and smokers do that. Makes it nice to open the window when it's raining out. And I may tint the windows. This one has no tint on the windows. My Crosstrek did have tint. I do like the tint. So I'm probably going to tint the windows. I found out that's going to cost around, for the good tint, like $600 for the ceramic tint. So I'm still deciding and maybe saving up for tint. That's it. That's all I'm going to do to this car, other than keep it nice. That's the plan. Driving the stick again, I love it. I've had it for like 4 or 5 days now, and driving it around town. I haven't been on the highway much lately, but driving it around town, love the stick shift. Loved how quickly I can maneuver this thing. It's got the power. When you need the power, it's there. Driving a stick shift comes back to you. It is like riding a bike. I haven't driven one in years, but it just no problem. And it's got a built-in hill assist. So, when you're in a stick shift car and you're trying to start on a steep hill, it helps you by not letting the car roll back, and it releases that as soon as you can tell that you're maneuvering the clutch and the gas. So that's cool. I don't know that I need it. I was always fine with dealing with a stick shift on a hill, but it's nice. It makes it a little bit easier. I've only stalled the car out 3 times so far. And that's just something that happens sometimes. Hopefully not very many more times, but here's 3 things I didn't think of when buying this car. I wouldn't call it an impulse buy. I went into it having thought about it for 6 months, There are some things that I didn't really fully understand how big of an impact they would be until after I signed all the paperwork and started thinking about it. I had to call insurance or go on the app, and it did raise my car insurance. That's not something I can afford it. It's fine, but I forgot. Oh yeah, I'm going to pay more in insurance. So, okay. It's going to get significantly worse gas mileage, lower MPGs. On my Crosstrek, because it was such a little economical car, I always made it a point to try very hard to get the best gas mileage I could. Since it was not going to let me accelerate and have fun, might as well see how economical I could be. And when I was driving it very gently, I could get it up into like the 34 miles per gallon range. If I was driving it aggressively and quickly, and especially if it was around town, it was more like 26, 27 miles per gallon. The new car... city is, its sticker says it's going to be around 19. Highway might get up into the mid 20s. So worse mileage per gallon. I'll be buying more gas to go to the same places. And the third thing, and by far the most impactful thing, it's a WRX. It is a higher performance sports car. It's got a turbocharged engine and it needs high octane gas. I have never owned a car that needed high octane gas. I don't think I've ever pushed anything higher than 87 at the gas pumps, but that is a thing of the past for this car. 91 is the minimum octane for this car. So that'll take some getting used to. I hope I don't forget when I'm at the gas pumps to put in the good stuff. And just ignore how much it costs every single time, because that will be a little bit more painful. Don't love that. And I have to learn to look at the high octane price on the gas station price signs, because the 87 price is not applicable to me when driving the Subaru. And all of that might mean that I drive my truck a little bit more often, just to save the miles on the new car, to keep it pristine, and to lower the monthly cost of driving such a fun car. I have the Ford F-150, and it's still wonderful, and I'm still I'm gonna drive it. I'm gonna use it more. So I think that's the way I'm gonna go with this here. I forgot to mention, there was one thing that happened that caused me to really reconsider getting this car. Meaning I had thought about it 6 months ago and had decided not to. There was a thing that happened that made me think maybe I should go get that WRX. And it was a podcast, The Daily from the New York Times. They had an episode that I listened to on my road trip to Florida, and that episode was called "Why Are So Many More Pedestrians Dying in the United States?" And it's like about a 25-minute podcast. You can find it. I'll put a link to it in the show notes for this episode, but you can just Google that and it'll come up. You can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts, or on the New York Times website, whatever. But the whole concept is, since about 2009, before 2009, pedestrian deaths worldwide going down as cars got safer, cities got safer. The number of people that get hit by a car while walking on the street, sidewalks, etc., going down as you would expect. And then in 2009, in the United States alone, that number started going back up. And it went way up. It's been going up, and it continues to go up ever since. And if you're thinking about some things that happened in the late 2000s that might cause this, you might remember that's about the time the smartphone came out. And so it would make sense that as more people are driving with a smartphone, they are distracted by that smartphone. So distracted driving would certainly cause you to potentially not see a pedestrian and hit them. Also, distracted pedestrians with their smartphones, right? So smartphones seem to be the obvious cause for the increase in pedestrian deaths. However, this is peculiar to the United States. This did not happen in other countries, at least not to the same degree. For example, in Europe, as this podcast points out, pedestrian deaths continued to decline. They have smartphones. They're probably just as tempted to use them while driving and while pedestrianing. So why didn't pedestrian deaths in Europe and Asia and in other places where smartphones are prevalent, why didn't the pedestrian deaths also increase in those places? Why just the United States? There is a reason that the United States bucked the trend and continues to kill people, with people driving distracted, probably because of their smartphones, and killing more pedestrians. That happens in the United States, but not other countries. That happens more and is increasing. Why? And I think the reason cited in this podcast episode is accurate, and it really got me thinking. If you had to guess, what percentage of cars sold in the United States for the last 10 years are manual transmission cars? I'll give you a second to think about it. Don't Google it. I'm just going to tell you in a second. But now would be your chance. If you're listening with multiple people, all of you take a guess. What do you think the percentage of cars sold in America are? What percentage of them are manual transmission cars? Now, it's low. We all know that, right? Most cars sold in America are automatics, by far. I knew it was low. If I was guessing, and I did when I was listening to this show, I would have thought 10%. Maybe between 5 and 10%. And that's high. The actual number in the United States is 1%. Roughly 1% of cars sold in the U.S. are manual transmission cars. Now, Europe. What percentage of cars sold in Europe in that same time period are manual transmission cars? I'll give you a second to think about it. Take a guess. It's higher. We understand that. You know where I'm going with this. I didn't realize how much higher. 70%. Most people in the rest of the world, Europe and Asia specifically, most people drive a manual transmission car. And the exact opposite is true in the United States. We are making our drive in the car easier, and we are using that extra brain power that we were using to operate the steering wheel, the gear shift, the clutch, the brake, and the gas. We are reducing our brain power needed for that and using that extra brain power to do what? Be on our smartphones. Whereas people in other countries don't have that luxury. They are more connected to the driving experience, which makes them more alert as they drive. And there was lots of other stuff talked about in this podcast, but that alone really stood out to me, and it reminded me of how close I came to buying a WRX 6 months ago, and maybe I should. Not because I'm concerned that I'm going to hit a pedestrian. I consider myself a very alert driver. I don't text and drive most of the time. I do it by voice because of CarPlay, but it is an automatic, right? So could I be more alert? Do I like the idea that I'm part of the 1% of Americans that are bought or is buying a manual transmission car? Yeah, I do. I like that. I like that idea, and I want more people to do it. I think manual transmission cars should come back, and it seems to be obviously going the other direction. Electric cars, self-driving cars seem to be the way we're going. But for now, I'm going to go back a step and go back to a manual transmission car, and that's what I'm going to do. When I'm not driving the truck, I'll be driving either a manual transmission car or a manual transmission motorcycle. So there, that was literally the thing that really made me revisit the idea of getting the WRX. And I think it's a big part of why I ultimately did it. I'm happy I did. All right, moving on. Thing number two. As you know, I'm a drummer. As you may have noticed at the beginning of this episode, the first episode of Season 5, we went back to a theme song that I used in Season 2, Brand New Day, by my band, To Be Fair. and mainly because that one pumps me up for doing this show. I love it. It is my favorite drumming performance in the studio. And now that I'm taking a break from theater, working on music, thinking about music, thinking about playing with the guys. I think we're going to be recording. We're going to be playing more gigs. That is the plan for 2024, is to play more music and do less theater. Not because I want to do less theater, but because Gary has a major project for the band, and I am committed to helping us fulfill the requirements of this project, which will require a lot of practice and rehearsal and recording and hopefully gigs. So my mind is there. It's all about music. And when I'm looking at TikTok and YouTube, I regularly see videos from drummers because I seek them out. And of course, if you seek them out, those mediums feed them to you. And any drummer who watches YouTube or TikTok has seen short videos from this guy. I believe he lives in Spain. His name is El Estepario Siberiano. And he is insane on the drums. He will do these short 1-minute videos where he tackles any song. He can do any song. The hardest songs for drumming that you can possibly think of. And he will do them with more. He will add double kick drums and extra drums and weird things you wouldn't expect. And he's faster than the original person, and he's doing more. It's not always better than the original, but it is always more. And he can do it all with just one hand if he wants to. He can do it all with just his feet if he wants to. And he's just insane. And there's tons of videos of drummers watching this guy reacting to just how insanely good he is. He has been a drummer in a metal band, toured the world doing that stuff. He doesn't do that any longer. He mainly is focusing on teaching people and his YouTube videos and his home studio and that kind of stuff. I just love watching him drum. And so drumming and getting better at drumming is something I think about more, especially now that I'm going to need to. And there's some longer form videos that this guy puts out, and in which he explains some stuff. He's partnered up with Drumeo, which is an online drum instruction video thing. He's done some of those, and sometimes he just puts out YouTube videos where he talks about drumming. And he has made it very clear in more than one video that people think he has some sort of insane talent that other humans don't have. And he doesn't believe that. He does not think that is true. He didn't just find out he could play the drums really good. He worked his ass off at it. He practices many hours every single day. These short 1-minute videos that we get to see him do on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, sometimes that's after a month of practicing that 30-second to 1-minute clip. And lots of trial and error, lots of failure until he finally has it. So when we see him doing incredible stuff on the drums, it's not because he just sat down and was able to do it. It's because he worked his ass off to learn how to do it. And his belief is that if you put in the time and the effort and the practice, and if you have the passion and the drive to be better at drumming or anything, that is way more important than your innate talent. Sure, he probably has built-in understanding of rhythm and his brain just works that way. But there's a lot of people that have that cannot drum the way he does. So that sticks with me. So I think I need to practice my drumming more. And it's really hard to do that where I live. I could buy a practice pad, which is just a little block of wood with some rubbery stuff on it that you can hit. It doesn't make a lot of noise, but guess what? How much fun that is for a drummer like myself, who is all about power and sound, and not necessarily finesse. Right? I was never a drumline type of drummer. I go for intensity and power. So when I drum, I make a lot of noise. If I'm using a acoustic set of real drums, it's going to make a lot of noise. And I live in a small house. It was Kiki's house before it was my house, and I barely have a place to put my computer and my clothes, and that's kind of it. So there's not a place for a big set of drums. There's no way I could play those drums most of the time, right? In the evenings is when I would like to play drums. She would be sleeping. We have a neighbor right next door who would be sleeping. Not okay. Also, this house is surrounded by horses, and you can't just play drums in the house. It will freak the horses out. I found this out at the last place I lived where I was surrounded by horses. So drumming on a drum set, not going to work where I live, which means for the last year, I haven't spent any time practicing drums other than when we had rehearsal, which was few and far between because I was in the theater so much. So now that I'm not, and drumming is going to be a more important thing to fulfill this project that, to be fair, is working on, I'm going to need to practice. How cool was it when El Estepario Siberiano's video shows up on YouTube where he is in Vancouver with the guys from Drumeo? That's where Drumeo is located. And they are on a street corner in Vancouver. And they have an electronic drum set up, and he shows off the drums. He's playing a bunch of stuff, and which is impressive because cheap electronic drum sets don't typically... They are not able to keep up with a fast drummer like that. Like when you hit them as fast as he hits them, you don't hear all the hits because it needs to be a really nice set of E-drums to keep up with a fast drummer. But this set was able to keep up with him. He wasn't playing his best, fastest stuff, but he was playing. And then they would look for pedestrians and say, hey, you want to play the drums? And they would bring people over, sit them down at the kit, and he would give them $5 if they could play just a straight beat on the hi-hat. They would give them $10 if they could do hi-hat and snare drum, $20 if they could do hi-hat, snare drum, and kick drum, just a basic 4 pattern. And then came the real challenge. He would lay down a groove. He would show you a groove. And then it's not just a standard groove. There was some trickiness to it. But if you could do that, and if you were not a drummer before, right? He was looking for people that wanted to become or get better at being a drummer. If you could lay down the same groove he did on this kit, on the sidewalk in Vancouver, you got the kit for free. And they gave away 5 sets of this Alesis Nitro Max Drumeo-themed electronic drum kit. And it got me thinking, boy, that would be the way to do it. I could fit a compact electronic drum set right here next to my computer in this room that I'm in right now. And if I did that, I could throw headphones on and drum anytime, day or night, without disturbing horses, neighbors, or Kiki, or dogs for that matter. So I clicked on the link in the video, and it took me to the site, and it turns out it's like $1,100 worth of electronic drums, as well as drum lessons from Drumeo. Like a year membership from them is like a couple $100. You get that as included as part of buying this set. So for $500. I could have an E-drum set that I know is good enough, more than good enough, to keep up with my level of drumming, if it can keep up with El Estepario Siberiano. And I thought, $500, man, do I have $500? And then I realized I do. Because longtime listeners of this show will remember my dog Scherzer got attacked by a pit bull a few years ago. And I literally, the day I watched this video is the same day I received what's probably going to be the last check from the lady that owned the pit bull, paying me back for my vet bills that her dog caused when her pit bull attacked Scherzer. And it was $512. So I took a picture of the check and deposited it into my checking account, and then I spent it on $500 worth of electronic drums. And now I am sitting here waiting for those drums to complete their journey from Vancouver to Charlottesville. They should be here on Wednesday. Now I got a work trip this week. I won't get to set them up until next weekend, but they will be set up right here next to my computer. I am hopeful that it will be easy to hook them up into my computer interface and record stuff I do on the drums right here in this same recording stuff that I use for this podcast. I think that should be an easy thing to do. So once I get them and can do that, you might hear those drums featured on this show. If you remember back to seasons 1 and 2, I regularly included what I call drum solos, which was crude recordings from a microphone in my basement on the set of drums I had at my old house. Some studio stuff, but I was limited. I didn't love them, which is why I stopped including them in the show. But how cool would it be if I could lay down some cool grooves, some cool beats, some neat fills on the E-drums right here and record them the way I record this podcast. So I'm pretty freaking excited about getting those electronic drums. And so yeah, that's thing number 2. E-drums on the way. I can't wait to get them. Can't wait to practice on a regular basis. I can't wait to use the Drumeo lessons that are available. The regular practice, just sitting down and playing the drums on a daily basis is something I haven't done in years. So it's time.
Thing number 3.
Thing number 3 is supposed to be something stupid, and what I wrote down here to talk about was the concept of going to bed early. It's something I'm kind of starting to think about doing, like not because I have to, not because I'm trying to better myself and I need to go to bed early. Sometimes I want to. Sometimes I don't want to stay up late. Sometimes I want to go to bed early, and it's weird. I mean, for most of my life, this has not been a thing. I don't ever want to go to bed until I have to, and then when I do, I'm so loving being in bed, laying down, going to sleep. It's the most wonderful thing because I'm so freaking tired from staying up way too late. Falling asleep is never a problem for me. If I get sick or I'm not feeling great, every now and then I'll be like, I come home from work and I just want to go to bed, and sometimes I do. That's it. That's the only times I ever go to bed on time or early. But here lately, I've tried it a few times. I kind of liked it. The reason I was even able to do it was because I had taken a break from this show, so I didn't have to stay up late any night of the week to record and edit a podcast. I got way ahead in editing and posting What Is It About You videos. I've got a few more weeks before I need to have another one ready, so I haven't had to spend time editing videos and getting those up on the YouTube. And we took a break on the other podcast. I'm pretty much caught up on the TV I want to watch. All of this is possible because I'm not rehearsing for a musical theater performance 4 or 5 times a week and shows and all of that. It's amazing how much time I have when I'm not doing theater. Don't get me wrong. I miss it. I want it back in my life, but it's nice to have the break. And because of this, I have tried going to bed at the same time Kiki goes to bed. It's happened more recently than it normally does. And it was kind of nice. I feel better when I wake up in the morning. It's odd. And then because this is on my mind, it was interesting when I got this little, when I was scrolling through TikTok one night, I got this little comedy bit. This comedian's name is Joe Zimmer. I've seen him live. He opened for Brian Regan here in Charlottesville, and I thought he was hilarious. He's sort of he's a kind of a deadpan sort of a guy, and this little bit popped up on TikTok. Here, I'll play it for you. And this got me thinking that going to bed early might be a thing that I start to do because I want to. Here's how the comedy bit goes.
I really started messing around with early bedtime, and that is addictive. Start cozying up at 10, you're like, where's this been? 10 is the gateway to 9:30. Next thing I know, I'm curling up at 8:45. Your friends are like, where you been, Joe? You're like, busy. super busy. I got good relationships and stuff. 8 p.m. is the overdose of early bedtime. That's when you've gone too far. You wake up 3 refreshed. Walk the streets in the night with the other addicts and criminals.
So, yeah, I kind of get it because I felt that when I went to bed way earlier than I might normally do. And when I say normally, here's my normal going to bed time. Kiki goes to bed after we finish watching a TV show most nights, right? So 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, somewhere in there. And then I stay up. I usually stay up. And what do? I'm doing stuff on the computer, recording this, editing a video, researching stuff, just watching. Sometimes I'm just watching mindless YouTube videos. Sometimes I stay in the couch and watch TV there. Sometimes I read a book. Sometimes I just go out and smoke cigarettes and stay up late because it's what I do. I've always done it. But a few times Kiki goes to bed, I'm like, you know what? I don't have anything I have to do. I don't have to edit a video or record a podcast. Watched all the TV I want to watch tonight. So I think I'll go to bed too. And it was kind of nice. And I felt better waking up. So, I've also been working out more since joining the gym. And I think the combination of getting generally more sleep and working out more, I feel better. I haven't lost a bunch of weight yet, but I definitely feel better. Other than when the knee hurt. Since that's gone, especially, I've noticed that I just generally feel a little bit better. So is this going to last? Is it something that I'm going to just want to do and continue to, and just like start to go to bed early, start to get more sleep? What's going to happen in the next few months? Will I become an early to bed person, or will I continue doing what I've been doing all of my life, staying up way later than I should, pretty much every night, with very few opportunities to like sleep in and catch up? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going I'm not going to like make myself go to bed early every night. But when I feel like going to bed early, which seems to be happening more often, I'm gonna. And then maybe that'll be something. I don't know. Is that the new me? I can't imagine. I can't imagine my life as a person where I go to bed early. 8 o'clock, 8:45, 9 o'clock. That seems crazy to me. Midnight that's actually a good start, right? If I'm going to bed at midnight, that's earlier than I normally go to bed. And maybe that is the gateway to 11:30, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Who knows? I don't know. I will keep you updated. If you keep listening to this show, you will know. Am I going to bed early or not? This show, the concept of 3 things, was born out of me staying up super late at night, and that's when the creative juices kind of hit. It's when I enjoy doing things like creating, writing, thinking, and sometimes just consuming art and creativity and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not even going to make a prediction, and I'm fine with it either way. But that's where my head's at now. And that seems like a great way to start off 2024. Thank you so much for listening to this show. Please share that with your friends. If you're still listening, you're a devoted fan. Please tell others that they might enjoy this show. Send them a link. Share it on your Facebooks and your whatevers. Tell people, hey, check out this guy. He's interesting. Got a neat podcast. Talks about some stuff that it's probably relatable to a lot of people. If you got somebody who wants to learn how to drive a manual transmission, maybe there's some interesting stuff in thing number 1 there. If you got somebody wanting to play drums, there's some interesting stuff in thing number 2. And if you're thinking about going to bed early, thing 3 is your deal. So, again, thanks for listening. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. See you again in a few weeks. I think you should be looking forward to a Small Things Considered next week. We will be bringing that show back as well. All right. I need to shut up. I'm rambling. I don't know how to end a show. That's my problem. All right. Let's just end it now. See you next time.
The fire that can't be tamed.